Hey everyone, welcome to the Filmhacker podcast, a show about using creativity, innovation, and technology to growth hack your career and your life as a filmmaker. I'm Gavin Seal, and this is the Filmhacker podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how to automate some of the most common freelance frustrations, annoyances, and awkward client relation situations. Hey everyone, first off, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far, whether it's on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever, and someone who even shared us on Reddit. So that's amazing. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the show, especially at this early stage. So thank you so much. And if you've liked what you've heard so far, please do like it or subscribe or leave a comment. So thank you. And to get on with the episode, today we're going to start digging into what it means to be a working artist, not a starving artist. There's this fetishization in our industry of the starving artist, and this idea that if you're not struggling, then you're not a real artist. But I don't agree with this. I think to be an artist, you need to be able to spend more time creating. And to do that, you need to have certain business practices and systems in place. And I think Jay-Z sums that up perfectly when he says, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." And it's the same with artists. If you're an artist, you're not a businessman, but you are a businessman. Now, most artists don't like this, but it's too bad. In a lot of cases, if you're a director, you will have a producer to take care of most of this. But even as a director, you're going to have certain business practices, invoicing, accounting, dealing with unions that you're going to have to deal with, that you're going to have to handle. And the main one that kind of affects everyone, so I really want to address this first, is invoicing. Most artists don't like doing this stuff, but it's too bad. And the sooner you start implementing systems to automate all these things that you hate doing, the sooner you'll have more time to spend on what you actually want to do. So don't drag your feet on this stuff. You'll just waste more time on it. So the first system to address, the thing that every artist hates but has to do, and that they often have poor practices with, is accounting. The number of people who have asked me, "Hey, Gavin, do you have an accounting template?" Or they're using Word or Excel. And every time they have to go in, they have to change the line item. They have to change the quantity of days or the number of hours. Sometimes they've adjusted their rates. And then they put this data in there and it throws like a design element off, and then they have to rejig that and they have to change the terms. It's ridiculous. You don't have to do it like that anymore. So here are 3 tools that you can use to immediately save time on invoicing. And it's not just the creation of the invoice that you're going to be saving time on, interacting with the client when it comes to delivering that invoice. But above all, what I really love is how easy it makes following up on invoices, because this is easily the most awkward thing to deal with clients. And it definitely gets in the way of your creative working relationship. If someone's late on an invoice or forgot to pay, following up on that with an email is super awkward. And it definitely affects the way both of you think of each other creatively, because now you're talking as business people. And your language changes, you may be on the defensive, they may be on the defensive. By using a system like this that just sends an automatic template after 14 or 30 or 60 or 90 days, they just get this thing from your accounting software that says invoice overdue. We understand that sometimes things change or things fall through the cracks. So this is just a friendly reminder that you're late, and here's the link again to pay. So much easier. Almost every time I've had this happen, it leads to the client saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we forgot to pay this. It just fell through accounting," whatever, and they follow up. And I don't even have to send them that awkward email. It's amazing. So a lot of people also think this is going to be expensive. Not true. I'm going to give you 3 accounting tools that you can quickly and easily implement that are ranging from free to various kind of payment structures, depending on a bunch of factors. Each have pros and cons, so we'll get to that. But no matter what, you should be using this because you will save time. And if you're saving time, you're not only saving money. And if you're saving time, you're also giving yourself more time to do what you should be doing, creating or doing what you love, or spending it with family. Who cares? The point is you have more time, and that's the truly finite resource. So let's get into it. The first tool, if you're currently using Word or Excel or I don't know, text edit, whatever it is, even Google Docs, whatever you're using that involves going in every time and changing all these fields, get rid of that. The free version that's a great way to kind of dip your toes in this pond is Harvest. Harvest is an online accounting platform. The website is getharvest.com. It is free for one person, meaning you, and it's free for 2 projects. So you can have up to 2 projects, 2 clients, and you can just start. You know, if you have less than one client, then that's no good. Then you have no one to invoice. But if you have less than 3 clients, if you have 1 or 2 clients, this is a super easy way to get started, start learning the software, start learning how to treat this logistical administrative part of freelancing and being an artist as a separate process and system. Free. I mean, I don't really have much more to say about that. It's free. So just use it. The other 2 options are paid, and I'll kind of talk about them both at the same time because the pros and cons kind of shift the scales back and forth. The 2 options are FreshBooks and QuickBooks. They sound similar. They're actually, I mean, it's because we're talking about bookkeeping and books, but I use FreshBooks. I love FreshBooks. They even have a great podcast called I Make a Living that you should totally subscribe to. So I'll start with FreshBooks because ultimately that's my recommendation. It's what I use, but I'll kind of explain why I use it. I've used all 3 of these, of course, but the reasons I use FreshBooks are, first of all, to be honest, the design of the entire interface and platform makes it so easy for me to use the software. It's just friendly and nice. And even the way that the design of the documents, whether it's a quote, an estimate, an invoice, the way it allows you to kind of drag and drop a logo here, add your address here, and it lays it all out. You have a couple different layout choices, but generally it's really streamlined and their choices are nice. Whereas QuickBooks, definitely a standard on the accounting side, and you can tell everything from the front end, the deliverables, like the invoices, the estimates, to the back end is, to me, a nightmare. Even the support is very poor. I've also had suppliers that have issued me invoices from QuickBooks, and I've had issues with their payment system online. I've never had any of these problems with FreshBooks. And the only problems I've had with FreshBooks were, for example, I wanted to export a certain type of report, and it turned out my receipts were too heavy in file size because I'd taken them in full resolution. So I needed a little more help from the support line so that they could kind of do that manually because it was such a huge document in terms of file size. And they were on the line within minutes. They helped me immediately, and I had the report in my inbox by the end of day. So it was an incredible experience. Whereas with QuickBooks, whenever I had issues, I'd follow up. They weren't particularly knowledgeable. It was very difficult. It took days for them to get back to me. It was really just poor. But I know people who are using QuickBooks. Obviously, it's a very successful, arguably the biggest accounting platform in the world. So something's working, but I don't like it. Those are your 3 options. Harvest is free. FreshBooks and QuickBooks are paid. Right off the bat, it will depend on how many clients you have. I have, on average, every year, 12 clients, like definitely no less than 8 and no more than 15. So if you're in this range or if you're over 2 clients, then Harvest is kind of out. But the other 2, FreshBooks and QuickBooks, both have free trials. So you can try either of them. I would suggest trying FreshBooks first because, like I said, it's just amazing all around. There's some other features I'll get to in a second that also just work beautifully. I've tested them in QuickBooks and they just don't work seamlessly. And if it's causing me more time, it defeats the whole purpose. So FreshBooks is great. But if it is too expensive, because it is a little more expensive, I think I pay about $250, $300 a year for FreshBooks, but it definitely saves me that much time in time saved. So, and that's something we'll talk about continuously through the course of the podcast, is like the importance of investing in yourself and in your business and in your business practices to save time, and what is that like cost benefit. In both of these cases, there is another added value, and that is accepting credit cards, PayPal, or Stripe. Now, a lot of freelancers don't appreciate the value of offering this service, and I think it's because they see it as often they're losing, between 1% and 5% transaction fee. This is like a lot of mom and pop shops, a lot of small, like tiny businesses, micro businesses. And I think it's the wrong way to think about your work and your business as a contractor, as a freelancer. If you can't afford to make your customer's life significantly easier for 3% of your fee, your margin is too low. Your profit margin is too low. So really the answer isn't, I can't afford to offer this service. The answer is you need to increase your rate so you can provide better customer service. The number of times I've walked out of a store because they don't take credit card or debit, they only take cash, they lost a customer. Now, obviously, it's not as dramatic in this situation because they kind of have to pay you anyway. But being able to provide this extra customer service is just super pleasant. Most customers at this point don't even use it. So all you're doing is you're just demonstrating that you are like on the cutting edge of customer support. If your margin is too low, but you want to offer it, you can always include in your terms that you offer this service. Like this is what a lot of lawyers do. They'll say it's this much if you pay by cash, check, or no, I don't think they take cash, but they'll say like it's this much if you pay by check or e-transfer. And then they'll say, please add a 4% transaction fee if you wish to pay by credit card, but we can accommodate. So you can do something like that as well. And for you, it's shown that FreshBooks has research on this, that accepting credit cards and digital payment usually results in significantly faster payment. This tends to be less common in my experience in like a production company, but with corporate clients, 100%. All of my corporate, well, I shouldn't say all, many of my corporate clients, if they're overdue on a payment, especially they'll get that notice from FreshBooks, they'll email back and they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry, this slipped through the cracks. We'd like to take care of this immediately. Do you take credit card? These are like professional companies. That's how they work. Unfortunately, this isn't a standard practice in a lot of our film and television production companies, but companies like with corporate work, they'll do this. They'll say, we're so sorry that we're late. Do you take credit card? We'd like to pay today. And they do that. They pay today. On one occasion, I even said, yeah, we agreed to check. So I discounted the transaction fee. So if you don't mind, I just need to add a 4% transaction fee. And they said, no problem. We're so sorry this happened. It was really a wonderful experience. And when you get money immediately, you can start using that money immediately. And this is another business practice that companies know, and unfortunately not enough freelancers recognize, because it's a bit of an ideological shift. Because I think a lot of artists, especially once they do the work, they charge a certain rate and that's how much they made. But any company or any investor recognizes that once the month, as long as another party has the money, they can be using that money to invest in anything. That could be in a new project, a new film. It could be in the stock market or a bond. It doesn't matter. But as long as they have that money, they can continue to use that money to leverage other opportunities and invest it. The sooner you have that money, you can invest that in other opportunities. And that could be anything from, backing a new project or funding something to putting it in the stock market. So unfortunately, a lot of artists and freelancers aren't really fair to themselves when it comes to monies owed. And so that's another reason why credit card payment is really great, because especially as long as your profit margin is healthy or you're offsetting the transaction fee to the client, getting the money sooner means that you can use that money sooner for whatever it is. And this is like a basic investing principle that it's better that you wrap your head around now if you haven't already. So yeah, the fact that clients just tend to pay faster with credit card is actually quite valuable. Now, the last objection I often get when freelancers or union people ask me for an invoice template and I talk about one of these automated digital platforms is they'll say, well, my client likes to get them physically. They like that I bring in a physical invoice, which to me, I've never had this experience, or at least not in years. But if that's the case, no problem. These platforms let you send your invoice via snail mail if that's what they want. You can just check off the box that sets your default to email and snail mail, or just snail mail, or whatever. And it'll just send it via snail mail. So it even does that. You don't even have to go to the post office. So I really can't stress enough the exponential time savings that come from automating your accounting practices, which we'll get into more once we get to expenses and other things. But just invoicing alone, you're going to save a bunch of time. And so I hope if you weren't automating your invoicing, I hope now you'll consider it and you'll check out getharvest.com or freshbooks.com or quickbooks.intuit.com. Intuit is INTUIT. But like I said, freshbooks.com is amazing. This isn't sponsored. Harvest is free. So that's cool if you only have 1 or 2 clients. QuickBooks, like I said, a lot of accountants like it, but accountants should be serving you. Like if you have an accountant that's frustrated with you not using QuickBooks, get a different accountant. You're hiring them. You have choices. And FreshBooks offers all the same opportunities. You can add your accountant in any of these platforms so that they can just log in and get whatever they need, which again, just saves you that back and forth, the days or weeks before the tax deadline, which, let's be honest, all artists wait until and then have to deal with that headache. So the accountant just being able to go in there and get the information they need is super valuable. And if they're arguing that they only work in QuickBooks and they're not willing to take 5 minutes to do the video tutorial on another platform that's easier for your life, get a different accountant. So hopefully those tools and that advice might help you reframe some of your ideology about how it comes to compartmentalizing your the work you do, like the creative work you do, from the way you manage your business, the logistics and administration. Also bear in mind that you don't have to be incorporated to do these things. A lot of people or freelancers have this mistaken sense that if you're not incorporated, you're not a business. That's not true. Even if you're an individual freelancer contractor, especially once you have your tax numbers as a individual, you are both a business and a person. And so you can use this ideology to help frame your work, but also your relations with your clients and your interactions in general. And we'll talk about the reasons for incorporating later, but you don't have to be incorporated to operate as a business. And I think that's also a common misconception that you're not a business if you're not incorporated. That's not true. Coming up in the next few episodes, we'll keep talking about some of the other systems that you can use to streamline your workflows and put in place to spend less time with the business side of things and more time doing what you love. So thanks for listening. Please subscribe, like, comment, and until next time, see you later. Thanks for listening to the Filmhacker podcast, a show about using creativity, innovation, and technology to growth hack your career and life as a filmmaker. Until next time, I'm Gavin Seal, and this is the Filmhacker podcast.